Okay, boys and girls, today we are going to look at both the body paragraph and the conclusion of this TDA that we've kind of been working on for a couple cycles now. So this is the first part that Mrs. Sauls did. And again, she had gone through and she had annotated the prompt, and we were looking at bicycles of today and how they are different from the bicycle invented by Carl Dreas, specifically the bicycle invented by Carl Dreas. So if you're going back and you're having to reread the passage, kind of get your head back into the game and remind yourself, remember we were only looking at the one invented by Carl Dreas, nobody else, and how those bicycles compare to those of today. So Mrs. Sauls had her intro here, and she wrote, bicycles of today are different from the bicycle invented by Carl Dreas. There are many differences that were given in both the text and the graphic. One difference was the material that the bikes were made of. Another difference was how to steer the bike. Finally, the bikes weigh different amounts. So the first thing in the body is we're going to do, an intro or a transition word. And my transition word is really simple. It says the first difference. And then, but we need to make sure that we're going in the same order that we list in our intro. So our intro talks about the first difference being the material the bikes were made of. So that's the first thing I want to make sure to talk about when I talk about the differences. So I'm going to write here that the first difference between bicycles of today and the bicycle invented by Carl Dreas was the material. Now, I want to make sure that I go back into my passage and figure out where it states or when it states about the material of Carl Dreas' bike. So I found that in paragraph 3, and how I look for that is I just go back and I count the paragraphs. So I count the first paragraph, the second paragraph, the third paragraph, and sometimes I even number them. And this was paragraph 3. So I wrote, in paragraph 3, it states, and because I'm taking it directly from the text, I need those quotations, that the main parts of the bike and the wheels were made of wood. Okay? So I know that came straight from the text. There's part of my evidence that I need from the passage to support my answer. So that's the first one. Then I'm going to talk about the graphic, because according to the graphic and the passage above that, the little paragraphs above that, I know that now that bicycles today are made of metal and rubber. So I'm going to say, according to the graphic, bicycles of today are made with metal and rubber. Now I could just leave it like that, but I kind of want to give an idea of kind of how they are different, like what makes it way different, makes it way different from each other. So this is where you kind of have to think outside the box, and you want to make it sound authentic and a little creative. So I'm going to just add in there that today a bicycle made of wood. So I'm thinking about what it would be like if a bicycle was made of wood today. Would fall apart and be hard to ride. So I'm going to add that in. It would definitely fall apart. It wouldn't last very long. And then I'm going to move on to my next one. So if I look at my first paragraph, my second one was how the difference was that how we steer the bike. So then I want to make sure that my next thing that I talk about was steering the bike. I'm not moving on to the weight or anything like that. I'm talking strictly about how to steer. So I'm going to write another difference between the bicycles of today and the bicycles invented by Carl Dreyer was how they steered the bike. Okay, so now I got that. Again, it's another difference between the bicycles of today and the bicycles invented by Carl Dreyer was how they were steered. Now, again, I need some evidence from the text to be able to support that answer. So I went back into the text and I found that it stated about the pole being attached to the front and that the pole was used to turn in the direction you wanted to go. So I'm definitely going to add that. So I'm going to say, in the passage, and if you wanted to put the exact paragraph you found it in, some passages always also have line numbers. You may absolutely use that. I'm just going to say in the passage, it states, a pole was attached to the front. Come over here. And I'm going to say this pole was used to turn in the direction you wanted to go. Okay, and I have my quotes there because I was taking it directly from the text. You don't want to forget that part, okay? And what else do I want to say? I definitely need to talk about the graphic, right? So we need to talk about looking back at the graphic and what that shows. So I'm going to say, when looking at the graphic, bicycles of today have handlebars with brakes. Okay? And I can tell that because I looked at the graphic and I saw that it had handlebars and that they had brakes on them. And so I'm going to add in that little extra there about how this makes them different. And I'm going to say this makes a bicycle of today much safer to ride since you are able to better control your direction and there is a way to stop the bicycle if needed. I'm gonna add a quick way. And now I always like to go back and I'm gonna reread, make sure everything sounds good from the second part. Another difference between the bicycles of today and the bicycles invented by Carl Dreas was how they were steered. In the passage it states a pole was attached to the front. This pole was used to turn in the direction you wanted to go. When looking at the graphic, bicycles of today have handlebars with brakes. This makes a bicycle of today much safer to ride since you are able to better control the direction you are going, and there's a quick way to stop the bicycle if needed. I think that sounds pretty good. So then I'm going to look back and see, what was my last difference? Well, the last one is how they weigh different amounts. So I'm going to say the last reason bicycles of today are different, and hear me restating, it's kind of almost like an again and again here. So the last reason bicycles of today are different from the bicycle invented by Carl Dreas is the weight. In the passage, because I'm going to go back to the passage and figure out what it says, it mentions Carl Dreas's bike bicycle weighing about 50 pounds. Now we know nowadays bikes don't weigh 50 pounds. So we'll say, I'm going to say, what makes this difficult? So I'm going to say this would make the bicycle difficult to maneuver and to travel somewhere quickly. Now, there's nothing in the graphic that shows how much it weighs, but I can say that today, bicycles are much lighter and are able to travel at a quicker speed. Okay, and there you go. So let's just again double check what I just wrote. Let's see, where did I start here? I said the last reason bicycles of today are different from the bicycle invented by Carl Dreas is the weight. In the passage it mentions Carl Dreas's bike weighing about 50 pounds. This would make the bicycle difficult to maneuver and to travel somewhere quickly. Today, bicycles are much lighter and are able to travel at a quicker speed. And that is your body paragraph.